Hello and welcome to the first masterclass of our 2023 to 2024 series with the MET Orchestra Musicians at Lessonface, featuring Milan Milisavievich. I'm Katie Falk-Flores here with Lessonface, where we connect students with great teachers for live lessons and classes. In this masterclass today, we will have student performance and coaching sessions, followed by a brief Q&A at the end. So please enter questions in the chat box if you have them, and we will address them following the performances. And now, on Yuli, we'll play the exposition of the first movement of the Stamitz Viola Concerto in D major and one or two orchestral excerpts to be chosen by the panelist.
Hello, Milan. All right. Mic is on.
Oh, sorry, I was muted for a second. Anyway, nice to see you again. How's it going?
Nice to see you again.
Good job. Yeah, well done. Sounds good. You're doing an audition, am I correct?
Yes.
This is part of that. Um, Arguably, it doesn't matter. In other words, the way we approach an audition should be just another performance. But more on that later. For now, I will say, I enjoyed a sense of, and I don't mean this as a non-compliment, dutifulness. It's like you just delivered the whole thing very well. It's seriously done, and it's brought to a really good level, and it's clean, and yeah, it's a lot of good things. A lot of good things. And what I'm missing is a little bit of intangibles in there, or rather stuff that's a little harder to quantify. Like, for example, I would love it if I could have a sense that you're having fun. But I can promise you this is important for auditions. Yes, because an essential thing to think about in auditions, you're auditioning for a Canadian orchestra, that, is a serious group. a lot of people go in there because this is a question of making a living and so on. So it's like pretty serious. Yeah. A lot of people go in there and they think, I need to do well. At least I don't want to get cut, in the first round. I want to feel good about what I'm doing here. That already can induce a little bit of tension into the whole thing, right? We want to be one of the rare performers, I can promise you, in any audition, who sound like they're having fun. Already that's going to put you in a very small group of people that's going to be distinct. Because most people sound like they're trying to do a good job and hoping that I'll mess up. But that's a certain mental attitude. Yeah? I mean, ultimately, what's in your head or what's in your subconscious will find its way into the music. And I'm finding you're playing, good. We worked together before. Good playing. Now let's, for starters, bizarre as it sounds, smile sometimes when you play. I know some people, very serious players, smart, good interpretation, ton of knowledge. You watch them play, they look like they hate what they're doing. It's just like, and it sounds that way because it's unlikely that you're gonna look like you're enjoying yourself but sound boring. It's possible, yeah, but it's all kind of interconnected. So even as an experiment, smile sometimes. I mean, it's a beautiful piece. I think we can agree on this. It's very much of the classical style. So there's an idea, and it's a bit like Baroque music, like the theory of affect. There's a mood, and that's what the piece is about. It's not about some human struggles. Stammers is not about human struggles.
No.
But sometimes it's also a little beady, like da 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 da. That was, it'd be nice to get us always a sense of, or I can hear all the beats. I mean, I can hear that you're hearing all the beats. But if it was, imagine the pieces in one. Rampa, yarada-dee, yarada, rampa. So that's the flow we want to be achieving. Just, feel like the flow. I mean, obviously pulse is not going to be so slow, really, one beat per bar, but it's a sense of flow that is less determined by each beat that we have in there. Yeah? Try again. And lastly, the last thought I have for you is, I don't think it's unfair. I mean, I guess we all always think of Mozart, or Haydn when it comes to the classical style, but of course that's with the benefit of hindsight. Yeah? Because if you were in the classical era, it's not necessarily even true that if you were right now in 1783, who knows that you would even know that Mozart is the greatest. You're there in the midst of it, and various people are writing different things, and maybe it looks like Salieri is the greatest composer of the era. It's, but if we kind of look at it in hindsight, Mozart was very inspired with opera, and I find that this concerto has all these personalities in there. Yeah, it's pretty like second theme, That's something lyrical, maybe jovial. The beginning is a little more, this is like maybe like an ingenue in an opera. You know what an ingenue is? It's like it's like a, and I'm probably going to say it completely wrong, but I'm ESL, so that's my excuse for everything I say wrong in English. It's a kind of a standardized role in a drama of like a woman that's like innocent and a little clueless, and needs someone to save her. Yeah, but that's just of course being highly subjective. But it'd be nice to hear different personalities in there. Yeah,
all right.
Less beady. To have fun. How do we have fun? It's hard to have fun. Somebody tells you to have fun. Probably then it's the hardest. People just aren't like that. Um, Singing within, writing different characters in the music. I like to do this. Yeah, let's say the beginning. How would you describe the beginning? What mood is it?
Beginning, I would say a farmer having fun. It's a little
A
heavy
farmer.
because it's a
Okay, I mean, I think that's nice. Obviously, this is something subjective. Okay, so while I'm philosophizing, I'm also going to add a little bit about everything you need to know about the music is in the composer has already written it. I don't think this is true at all. Because there's many things that are not written in the music very clearly. First of all, texture that you can only figure out from context and a lot of knowledge about what this could sound like. But to bring it to life, you have to put something subjective in there. Yeah. So I'll say pretty much any idea is good in theory, as long as you can do it convincingly. Yeah, this is something like rom ta ra ta ta di. Let's say, yeah.
Yeah, a little.
Might be nice to have a slightly terrace dynamics in there. I think that's reasonable. Yeah, mezzo piano, mezzo forte, forte. Ram ta, that's forte, ra ra di di di, and you're singing. It's like Italian opera, regardless of the fact that it's not an Italian. Now less, as you rightly did. And then something very playful and also operatic. There's so much bravura there. So, I would imagine I'm playing for my daughter or something. She's 2 years old, and to keep the kid's attention, you have to be very sincere.
Yeah.
There's no. I need to get past the first round. My daughter's gonna walk away and go watch Oddbods, if you're familiar with this cartoon. Our house is all about Oddbods these days. Okay, so show us that this is fun. Okay. Nice. Maybe this can be a little more subdued because it's a contrast with the rest of it, That's just my thought about it. Otherwise, yes, I enjoyed it. It certainly sounds more alive. Yeah, it sounds more, I guess you could say, vibrant, I think is a great way to, well, it's something to aspire to, and you definitely was more vibrant. Okay, let's do the bridge. The sonata form. Yeah. So I'm hearing just to, it's bubbles. Okay, it's bubbles. It's champagne. It's not. What I try to say about theory of affect is, there's no great drama in this music, and it is certainly not about some personal experience of Stammetz's that he is trying to convey to us. I don't think this music has that at all. So it's like a bit like Baroque music. It's about a mood and about a human experience of that feeling. Yeah, playful. And yeah, it's a little unattractive.
It's
Yeah.
too heavy.
Imagine a great bassoonist is playing this. If that exists. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, very playful. Extremely musical.
Let me just find the stroke. Okay.
Yeah, like all you need to don't worry about anything. All you need to think about is the beginning of the note. I think if you start the note correctly, it doesn't need ending on purpose. You don't need much bow. Yeah, nice and light, and I think going for the sound in your ear will help the most. Yeah, vibrato and everything, so it really shines. Yeah, you know, in general, as much as I hate saying you need to vibrate all the notes, I mean, I try not to say this. It's an oversimplification for what needs to be done. But if you vibrate a lot of notes, the projection is better, the sound is more attractive, your sound travels better. It feels like it's, you know, rather than something that's kind of just kind of lazily floating toward the listener's ear. Yeah, it's just vibrato just makes everything sound better. Yeah. See, this is a little bit like. Yeah, I don't want to hear that it's 4 half notes, you know. You're soaring up there, man, you know, rather than dutifully putting one foot in front of another. It's not an army barrack kind of exercise. You know, sorry, not a great analogy, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
More joyous, more joyful, less beady. Also keep the phrase in here, not. You know, it's like. Plus, an interesting side note about Stamitz. After everything that I said, I will say some of this sounds like interjection of Bohemian folklore to me. I always, you know, yeah.
With a drone.
There's these moments like that. I think in here that are fun. Let's hear this passage again.
The whole thing, the 16.
Sure. Okay, so I don't know, you know, well, thank you, on you. While I am loath to change your fingerings, I always say to my student, you know how to do my fingerings, but don't play that fingering, play this one. It's contradicting myself.
Yeah.
I think this might be okay in first position if your viola can sound good in a high register there, or on higher strings. I think it underlines that really very soprano kind of coloratura character, which I think the second theme deserves to have, as opposed to the farmer-like beginning that you, as you endearingly described it, but it makes sense. I like that contrast between the first and the second theme, because that's essential. Yeah? So something lyrical and innocent, if you imagine this is really an ingenue character. You know, it's a little funny, you know. This register, it just never pops a lot on most violas, you know, high G string. So maybe to avoid that right at this moment. So it's maximally connected because it's all a little fractured. Yeah. Use your breath to help you create a more infinite bow. Okay, let's try this second theme.
The first position. Okay.
Para 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 para. Yeah, you know, I've heard you before. I know you can play more beautifully than this. Certainly. you know, among the many things I think when I play, I never think about what I'm playing. I can promise you that. I'll think, for instance, I'm flying. Yeah, just remind yourself that all of this needs to have lightness to it. You know, if it sounds like you're working hard, I'm not going to be comfortable listening to you.
True.
You know what I'm saying? It's a message to the listener that is very easily conveyed, and it affects them, not positively. Yeah, it's you're soaring up there, very connected, with a clear intention to where we're going. Right? Yeah, really going toward those notes.
Okay, so I will not lift the bow between the. Okay. Sure.
Even if you change bows, you know, maximally smooth. Yeah. Nice smear on a bagel. Everything's nice and connected.
More or less. Like that. Okay.
Nice. You see, that was much more vocal. Yeah, it sounded more operatic. It sounded like you were singing it. I think we can agree that pretty much on all music we play, nearly all of it, you know, maybe not Boulez, maybe not. I mean, no one plays Boulez anymore. I guess that time's over. But back when we played it like 10 years ago, or, you know, most music you want to aspire as a string player to be singing it.
Yeah.
Always. I think that's our number one goal. And even though this isn't Mozart, who was an opera composer at heart, and certainly is his number one priority, I think. I think this is very, very much the same. Yeah, just very operatic, and that was nice. That was nice. Yeah.
More
Would you like to do some excerpts during the time that we have?
Yeah. Throw me at anything.
Yes. So I was told that I should surprise you with a request.
I mean, that's. I mean, it's going to be a recorded audition, so I'm sending a YouTube video. But they will send me the list, and I will have a week to prepare it.
Got it.
So I should.
I mean, you know, I say just stick with the classics. Why don't we do some Don Juan? I mean, you know, it's like it's in tune, and like clearly you worked on this a lot, and that's really, you know, admirable. When is the audition?
In About 4 weeks.
4 weeks. Okay. So, I'm not an idealist. It sounds really awful. I'm an idealist, but I think I'm a pragmatist too. But if you have 4 weeks, if it's possible to play the last 2 weeks, let's say that you pretty much know everything by heart, that would be great. It would help.
I have memorized it. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's very helpful because you will play freer as a result. It's inevitable. I think everyone does. Right now, the vibe I'm getting, also from your body language, is that you are, not only are you reading the music, you are reading the music off a device or paper, right?
I have it, but I was not reading the music though.
Okay. You seem to be looking at your instrument though, or something. Like I'm seeing some kind of... No?
I try to zone into my bow here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that I think that personally helps me to, when I focus visually, I'm more focused on the brain. I do not know what I'm doing.
No. Listen, I'm trying to just have a little discussion about what to do with our head while we're playing. Okay, so you don't have the music. I mean, I thought maybe you were looking at that. I mean, I can tell you're looking at something pretty intently. It's tricky to try to control any aspect of performance while we're playing, I think. Of course, when you practice, that's something else. I'm talking about right now. When it is about a performance that's supposed to, not just convey that you play well, but other things as well. Yeah, I like to, for instance, not look at my instrument because it makes me feel like I'm trying to control something. So just a word of caution about, not relying on that too much. Sometimes I like to look at a dot on the wall, or anything like, and I did not come up with this seemingly silly suggestion. It's actually in a book called The Inner Game of Tennis. It talks about how pretty much focusing on anything else other than what you're doing can have beneficial effects. So it proposes, for example, just focusing on an object or, something convenient to look at around you so that your conscious mind is not interfering with what you're doing. Yeah?
Should I just close my eyes?
My main concern about this is, well, let's start by you telling me a little bit about Don Juan, the personality in literature and, popular culture. Who was Don Juan and what did he do?
He was basically was otherwise known as a Casanova, and he was a personality who's
I can hear you okay. If it's possible, just maybe sit a little closer to the microphone just so we can all hear you well. Great.
He is a personality who is very much the idealistic in the feudal Europe, I guess, very free and very much doing whatever he wants to do without thinking about the consequence. And then
yeah, you said Casanova, which is very helpful. So I kind of like this great lover who just seduces always endlessly and maybe in a maybe reckless or narcissistic manner, like somebody like that would do, right? Because I think the piece very much conveys that. It's so over the top, exuberant, insane. And then as you approach letter D and letter, it strikes and you have that violin solo, I think that's a moment when actually Don Juan feels some real emotion. And you realize just how vulnerable he is. And he's only sleeping with all these people because he's avoiding feeling something. Yeah? Right? So that insanity of, that mania is what you hear at first. I think that's important. I think without that, Don Juan by Strauss is not Don Juan. Yeah? You sound controlled. It's... it's like, okay, yeah, Don Juan. This is something. It's like, I'm going to sleep with all the women in the world. Yeah, it's something really nuts like this. I'm missing that a little bit from you. Okay, also a little bit faster. That might help with this feeling. Yeah, like I think the piece almost has a feel like you're going to fall off, fall down from, you know, exuberance, if you will, at any second. It's so like it's out of control. Like he is out of control until you see how small and how insignificant he actually feels when love actually strikes and he's just like, oh, yeah. Let's try it again. A lot of it was good. Sometimes I feel like, the bowing is a little bit, it determines your phrasing a lot. Yeah, it's like, but bowing is not phrasing. Okay, can we agree on this?
Yeah.
Bowing is not, the direction of the phrase is sometimes or often unrelated to how it's bowed. You have to bow things because the bow is not infinitely long. So you just kind of help yourself find a way so that it feels natural, because you want the down bow to feel like breathing out and up bow to feel like breathing up, while also wanting to have them be equal, unlike they are with breaths. Yeah? But I feel like with you, it gets a little choppy with the bows. Yeah? Let's try again faster. And while I said I will not give you any fingering suggestions, any way to start with an open string. Actually, no. Wait, what am I saying? No, scratch that. I didn't just say that. I think this is fine. It could be fine, but an open G, if you do it, will give you more clarity. I think that's, but that means jumping here in the third position.
Yeah.
If you play it on C string, the very first note, more resonance, and also feeling like it's so it's not bada 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 bada, right? That's a gesture. It's a gesture. It's like this very approximate notation of what is a physical gesture, not music, right? But of course, he had to notate it somehow. So now it sounds da 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 da, but it's bram tagargam bam baram, right? And then dum da yum. I mean, I'm not saying you should play all the notes, but the top is the most important, and the feel that it's yum. Yeah. Yeah. Can you play it in this tempo? Can we try? Yeah. Just I think, also just in the bow, I just get a sense that you're closed in a little bit. Doesn't sound very exuberant either. So you're always kind of going forward, yeah, without rushing, of course, but a sense of forward momentum is very strong in this piece. Yeah? Let's go from or a little bit before that. How does yeah. I would like to feel that you really go to that B. The phrase really goes over many bars.
Milan?
Yeah.
I just have a question. How do you do the forward momentum without rushing? Because that's one of the mortal enemies, and I really try to.
Sorry, but I didn't hear which part without rushing.
One of my mortal enemy is rushing, and I try
Okay.
my best to really, and I think that's showing up as a almost non-musical at this point. Is there a way to make it exciting, make it edge of the seat without actually rushing it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, generally that means playing a little bit more on the front of the beat while not accelerating the beats. Yeah. So it is psychological, I'll say, more than, also I find just if I'm singing this internally, which I think we should always be singing everything inside. Yeah, when we're playing, like you want to feel it in the diaphragm, I'll say. Like so it's your connection to your own musicality, and you've decided that this is something with a lot of momentum that moves forward. That already will help you. Yeah. In general, I haven't found you to rush. So that's, I think you're doing a good job as far as excising your mortal enemy. Okay? Let's try from that spot. Yeah. So for instance, even, I hear you stop the bow, right? That makes it sound a little choked at the end. It's like the bow stops because of the way you started it, rather than the bow stops because you have to control da ya ra da da. The bow stops because you have to stop the note before the next one. But that sounds, yeah. Does this make sense? Yeah. So I didn't stop the bow. I just went the way I did. This determined the end. Yeah, it sounds much more natural that way because, yeah, you're da, da, da. Let's try that bit. Maybe one slower. Da ya rum ba. Yeah. So just to be mindful of this, because I feel like a lot of the time you kind of stop ends, you stop notes that way, and it's not so attractive. Okay, let's do this again. Yes, much better. Yeah, much better. Yeah, but technically, I think aren't those half notes? Hold on, are those half notes with an accent? Right?
Every single.
But there's no dots in there or anything. Just to be accurate in this sense, there is, because you're playing D ya da da, but it's not really written like that. Right, the half note doesn't have anything to make it shorter.
No.
Yeah. So let's play what's on the page. Yes. I guess what I meant is, at least for my understanding of how this should go, you play. It's not quite written like that, no?
Yeah, there's nothing that makes half notes shorter. Yes.
Yes, but you keep doing that. So just like for instance, you might find that when you play this in a section, you're gonna be the only one doing what you just did.
Sorry, what am I doing again? Am I making just them shorter or?
Yes, you're playing those half notes as though they had dots underneath.
Okay. Sorry.
Every time. Yeah. Ya ya da da. They have accents, I know, but it's ya ya da da da.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just sustain more. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not written the way you're playing it.
No. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Like that.
Yes.
Got it.
It's there's no dot there. Okay. As a last thing to try, maybe you can you, because I still see you do, you're looking at your viola, you try to control something. That's like the vibe I'm getting.
every note has to be clean. Sorry.
Yes, but that's not art.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I don't like, I'm not here to
Oh no, please. Yeah, that's yeah.
to pontificate.
No, no.
But it's nice to hear someone who's like, and you're like, hey, that's a musician, because I know everybody goes there and they don't want to make a mistake because they think one note out of tune will means I'm eliminated. I think more notes in tune certainly might make us think that this is not a consistent player, and you don't necessarily want to be working with someone who has intonation problems. That's true, but it's much worse to play music like it's not alive. Yeah? Maybe focus on your belly. Imagine that you're listening to yourself from a distance. That's one of the tricks that I do. So I imagine that I'm 10 feet away listening to myself. So with some amount of distance. Or imagine you're playing for a little kid in front of you and you want to show them something fun. Make them laugh, You know? Can we try this? But don't look at your viola.
Okay, I'll just close my eyes. Yeah.
Don't look anything else and love whatever you're looking at just to get your mind off this passage. Yeah, good. To me at least, although I could be biased, that sounded less effortful, which is nice. So I would say that's a good start, and I would want to go in that direction some more. Yeah. It is hard to make it speak, but if it sounds ba-da-ba-da-ba-da, that's not, I believe, what the music is. It's bam. So here internally in your diaphragm, sing it this way. Hopefully that'll help us get to a more organic way of playing this passage rather than like on a keyboard.
Yeah.
I mean computer keyboard.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kidding. Try it again. Yeah, a little more. You might be surprised that you need less bow than you think. I would start from the string, but not like, which is sometimes what I get when I ask for this. I'm not using much bow. Yeah, you probably need less action here. It's very little bow. Yeah, and then, no, I know, because you're here and you need to. I had a teacher who called this walking bow. So just to do it not without that first note being accented. And I'm hoping you're keeping your first finger down there. Are you? Like Shevchik style, just keep it. Right? Yeah. Are you? Were you doing that?
I think so.
Yeah, just good. I for instance, have to remind myself of this.
Mm-hmm.
We're about out of time. Can we try the beginning one more time? So, if you're gonna pick one word to describe this piece, what is it going to be?
Oosh. I don't know what that is.
Okay, so that's you. That's what you're going to show us at this moment. Imagine you're really playing for someone right there with you, and sing it. Okay, good. Now let's go to ta ya dun da da da. Nice, nice, nice. Yeah. So, this is obviously, it's very hard for everyone to, just before we finish, it's very hard we all struggle with uh, having to not think about what we're doing too much, because sometimes the more you practice, the more aware you are of all the technical things that need to be solved. But ultimately, you go back to the child in you that loves this music, that I think, like, nothing that I said was genius. It's obvious that the music is very exuberant if one knows about Don Juan. So just to find that mood in you, because it's in there, and find distractions to keep your mind away from, I want to play this accurately, because that's what the audition is. Because when you play with less concern about how technically correct it's going to be, I find your playing certainly a lot more attractive. And ultimately, you want to attract people to what you're doing in an audition, because, yeah, a lot of the time you listen to there and you start to feel uncomfortable because the other person is sending you that vibe because they're not comfortable there.
Yeah.
So anyway, well done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Milan.
Thank you both. That was fantastic to hear you on you. And thank you, Milan, for the coaching. Up next, we have Stephanie Lee will play the first movement of the Brahms Viola Sonata No. 2 in E-flat major.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Hi.
Yes, I can. How you doing? Okay, bravo, well done. Um, what year are you in your studies?
Sorry, what year?
What year are you in your studies?
This is my fourth year. I'm in between fourth and fifth year playing viola.
Okay, and how old are you? I mean,
I'm
are
17
you in?
right now.
Oh, I see. Okay. You know, this is playing a piece like this does open a can of worms in a sense, because yes, there's certainly a lot to work on as a violist, but then like as a musician, I guess I would start by asking you, what's the difference between this and a concerto?
There's a more involved like piano part, I believe, than and concertos normally with like orchestra.
Yes, so I guess on a basic level, concertos accompany an orchestra, and this is to be with piano. So how are the piano and the other instrument, in this case viola, what's their relationship?
It's more of like a conversation between the two instruments, I think. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, yeah, some sort of discourse, philosophical discourse, if you will, but definitely one where you know one doesn't serve as accompaniment for the other, right? Certainly not like if you're playing, I don't know, uh, a virtuoso piece, especially on on the violin. Those come to mind more. It's an oxymoron to say on the viola. No, I'm just kidding. We have some too, but it's too bad we don't have piano. It's really unfortunate, but obviously with you know we have limitations we have to work with. It would be nice to feel though like you're really aware of what piano is playing. Right. I'm missing that a little bit because I think some of your choices would be different with more awareness of that. Yeah. Because like when you exchange
Mhm.
motifs or when you exchange musical material from one instrument to the next,
Mhm.
or how to shape certain sections. Uh, we'll talk about which ones these are in a second. Because let's say you have a canon with one of them before the second movement returns and stuff like this. I feel a little bit like you're playing like your soloist. Let me show you how great I can play. Boom. That's cool, but in a sonata, I think it's more of an intimate conversation, discourse, if you will, relationship between two equal voices that are, however, very different. Yeah, I mean, what's the difference between piano? Can you tell me some of the differences between a string instrument and the piano?
Well, piano, the notes are kind of already like given to you when you press the key, and then
Yes, and when you press that key, like how long does the note last?
not very well. It depends. Like if you use pedal, it can last longer. Normally, when
Right, but eventually it decays, and right with the bow.
you can produce as however
Yeah,
long.
pretty much indefinitely as long as you change bows. So the sustaining, and then piano doesn't vibrate. There are many things. The textures are very different, and the instruments are more apart now than they were back in the day. I think many people forget this, right? The timbres and the colors and everything, it's even more different than it was, when this piece was written. Because like I play this with a Bessendorfer from this era on gut strings, and it's a lot closer. Yeah, now it's like it's really very different. So that's something that I will want you to also think about. It'd be nice of you to learn the piano part. Okay. Now, what does that mean?
Like know what the piano is playing when you're playing, or like
I think it's enough to hear it very clearly. Because when I say no, that's a loaded word. It means a lot of different things to different people. Like obviously, to play it is not going to be easy for most of us, regardless of any piano studies that almost all of us have to partake in. We'll become professionals. Um, I sometimes play the piano part on the viola, with both hands, just to kind of I mean, yes, like I listen to it, I know how it sounds, but there's always details that you missed. And when you play it through another medium, like let's say your instrument, you play the piano part, it's still very useful because you digest it more and more with each time. Now, without looking at the music, tell me, what is the tempo / character indication at the beginning?
I think it's Allegro Amabile, like, yeah, right?
Yeah, very good. Very good. So, what does amabile mean?
Like friendly or I don't know, like amicable.
You know, that's not a bad guess. That's not a bad guess. I think it is about amore, so it is about love. You're thinking ami or whatever, which is friend. But I believe that it is like loving. It's about love. Yeah. The beginning is, without looking at the music, what dynamic is it?
Guessing piano, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I also don't have the music in front of me, but I think it is piano. Yeah? Is it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So, first of all, yes, I think it was a little more full-blooded than that. Yeah? I'm missing the amabile a little bit. And while I always say that I never impose my ideas on others, I'm going to impose mine on you and tell you that I think this is a little too fast. I mean, you were kind of like, that didn't sound very amabile. I think it could be more amabile for sure. Piano, and piano. I mentioned texture in music earlier, and texture matters. Texture matters a lot in a lot of things. In notation, we have some things written very clearly. Pitch, rhythm, as in relationships between notes, in that sense. Already to notate tempo is not as easy, or it wasn't as easy for a long time, right? Because allegro doesn't even mean. I mean, allegro can, it's on a spectrum. Yeah, I would. You want to give it all time to breathe. Yeah, because music needs to breathe as well. Breathe in a sense that it unravels in a way that does the material justice. That you don't kind of just go over it. Quieter, yeah, more loving, like an intimate statement. I mean, chamber music is about intimacy. Like now we play it, and it can be played in huge concert halls of 2,000 or 3,000 people. But originally this was never done, and the instruments were much quieter. But yeah, it's an intimate thing. It's and very vocal. Now, again, without looking at the music, can you tell me what you remember about the slurs? Like,
No, I break up the slurs than what's written in my edition.
right, but so what is written? How are the slurs and what's written?
Well, I think the first phrase.
But they're very long. That's
Longer,
what
yeah.
I was getting at. Yeah, they're like super long slurs, right? And that's because Brahms originally wrote this for the viola.
No, the clarinet.
Right, but I would say even without that, he was definitely the kind of composer who put his ideas first, and then the ability of the instrument to play it second. That's the way Brahms thought about stuff. It was in a way a typical. I mean, there's this famous story that's probably apocryphal how one of the guys, Schupanzig, who gave premiere one of Beethoven's late string quartets, was having trouble with it, and he mentioned this to Beethoven, and he said, I don't care about you and your wretched fiddle when the creator speaks to me, and if anybody less talented said this, you would say, what a rude statement. But because it's Beethoven, we bow to it and say, well, of course, the great genius only answers to the creator. Yeah. But my point is, Beethoven was probably the first composer to really think of his ideas that way, like they were so sacred that you write it and it's up to the performer to figure it out. So these slurs are super long, but it does matter because I think with Brahms this means it shows the sweep of the music. So we have to maintain that sweep of the music even with the bowings, right? I'm getting. It's a little bit chopped up. I think we go to that note. And now this is more like a whisper. It's so like, in a way, casual. Yeah, it's like an afterthought. Yeah. It's so like just a swoosh goes by. Yeah. Let's try it again. Quieter, more intimate, a more loving, beautiful kind of tone. That's the character we have to have. Ultimately, speaking of what's not in the music, you have to give something very subjective. Like you have to give a part of you in there. And that also applies to the characters, right? Because that's something that we have to use our own feelings and personal experience to express. And I'd like to hear more of that. Yeah, so even if we break that up, I mean, I'm pretty sure you don't have to. Do you really need two bows? It's a little bit, you're starting this up, right?
Yeah.
I think that's cool because the phrase does go that way. Da 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 da. Ah, and if we think of down bow as release, I salute that idea, but then it causes other issues. So if you separate one of them, it's got to sound like. Really, really super connected. Can we hear this? Good. Okay, so you're very young, and I believe you're in Juilliard pre-college, right?
Yeah.
This is all great. Now, we want to be further improving the refinement of our string playing. And I think an important part of it that I strongly believe in is that you cannot have all the same bow speed on everything. Yeah? Like if it's, that's pretty much all the same speed. Yeah. And as a result, well, let's compare it to what we could be getting instead. See, I went faster with both. Faster both. Right, then, for instance. It's like the notes that are shorter in length need more bow speed. And then they speak more. They're more, the whole thing is shaped better. It's like it's in 3D. Right now with your bow speed, everything is a little bit even, but not in a pleasant way. Yeah. That's how the intonation was just needs a little more care at first. Okay, so try the beginning and save the bow on the dotted quarter. Right? Then give those 8 notes more bow speed so they really speak more. Yes. It's good. It's a very far-reaching concept that, has application in many, many things. So I'm just like giving you the taste of this for many years to come. But yeah, for example, right? So you give more bow speed on the 8th notes rather than on the dotted half. I mean, this is everywhere, Otherwise, it's all the same. That has no shape. No. So most bow speed. So I save it in a way that I can use more bow speed on those notes, and then everything speaks more. Yeah, like, yeah, this piece is not an ideal way to be introduced to this idea, but I'd like for you to think about it. That's a bit how it sounds like. So. One thing I like to do is I like to exhale while I am changing bows. So that changing bows is about breath. It's not about the mechanics. Because it isn't about the mechanics. That's just a band-aid solution until you get much better. Yeah, you're a kid, so they teach you how to do that. And also, kids' bows are bad. Bows can have some role, sometimes a negative one, in how hard it can be to change bows. But yeah. So I'm exhaling, breathing out. Helps smooth out all the bow changes. Try it again. Very nice. That's such a lovely mood you're getting now. In a way, it's more chill. But I think this is that kind of beginning. There's no drama here. It's an uncomplicated statement. And yes, it very much has that kind of Brahmsian, ultra long phrase that he not only did he write this for the clarinet, but even obviously he made the viola transcription too. But I don't think he cared ever about, you look at his string quartets. I mean, he wasn't thinking how to make this comfortable, obviously. Yeah, it's amazing that the violin concerto, after all the work with another famous violinist of the time, is still super hard. That's like him trying to absorb a lot of advice from an actual string player. Cool. Okay. There is a grace note there. There are grace notes there, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really hear them. Okay. Again, it's a gesture. Well, what's a gesture? What does that mean?
Like, what does a gesture?
Yeah, what is a gesture? It can be something symbolic where it doesn't mean what it seems to mean. Yeah? I mean, this is not about da-da-da, right? It's yeah, and then you've put it in notes, and then you kind of make da-da-das to show this yeah, right? So, but when you put it into notation, it's a little bit clumsy. Like that quintuplet that you just played. Right? I mean, it's just he had this many notes. He had so many notes. So the last passage has to be 5 notes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it's taka 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 ta ta ta. Right? So I want us to think of a music from a more organic perspective, because I think a lot of people lose sight of the fact that notation is imprecise. Okay? Because European notation is written with certain ideals in mind, like, exactitude and number of beats per measure, and like everything, things are split mathematically to be clear, but that's not always the way the music exactly sounds. Yeah, but you did a good job with that. Okay, now, so this is a mobile, nice and nice and uncomplicated. Now this. How do you compare that to the beginning?
I think it's a lot more like passionate. I think that's the right word. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, uh, with these kinds of questions that I always want you to be asking yourself, there is no right or wrong answer, but you can certainly have an answer that makes less sense based on the concept of the piece and everything. But yeah, you want to be relying on your musicality, which in this case tells you it's more passionate. And I would agree with you. So it'd be nice to hear there's something more, you know, um, sudden about it. But then this is, it's like foray or something. It's like a completely different, it is a completely different texture. You know, I talk about texture because while Brahms was obviously a great composer, like any other composer, certain things he put more emphasis on than others. I wouldn't say that texture is hugely important in his music to him, as far as I can tell. But this moment, which you have in Canon with the piano, right? It's like a very dreamy moment. So we like this is what's coming up. So a completely different sound from both the beginning and then the you know, and then right? But then when you play it a second time, it's different, right? It's, you know. Then you no longer have a piano with a piano. And it's a different, less searching character. Yeah. Let's get this passionate outburst first. Yes, yes. It's, you know, it's funny. You inhale before you start. I would do the opposite. You know, I usually do the opposite before I start. But here, I feel it musically. You know. And I know it's awkward. Obviously, it's very awkward. Strange key and G flat major, and you're high up on the G string. It could be that there's a little too much strength being used from you. I don't think you're clamping the left hand or anything, but I just kind of feel like you're trying, so it's getting tight, but that's making it less good. And then you're probably compelled to try even harder, which is making it even less good. Yeah. So you want to be avoiding these feedback loops. It's really important. Yeah. Instead, do the opposite. Like I'm flying. I'm flying. One of my crazy students might say. Instead, the exact opposite. A sense of flow and lightness in your upper body. Yeah. A lot of sweep. Very good. The sweep was great. Now, how do we get clarity on the C string? How do we get a good sound on the C string?
Well, I feel like you have to, I don't know if dig in is the right word, but like a little bit more of like that on the C string compared.
You know, I'll take it. I mean, I think you're making a decent point. Uh, we gotta also be careful with words because different words mean different things to different people. That's just how life is. Weight, yeah, like lean into it. I mean, I'm a big guy, but you know, my daughter's not even 4 feet tall and she's 30 some pounds. In other words, in everyone's arm, there's plenty of weight for a big sound. Plenty. Yeah. While I certainly have some advantages that others don't. So I would try to stay, solidly, as much as it can be uncomfortable to be, in the middle there. But if you're too much here, the sound loses focus. It gets fuzzier. And that's, what's the hardest thing on the viola?
Creating a good sound.
Yes. So it's like we're always working on this. It's just so freaking hard to get a good sound on it, but it's doable. Absolutely. So here, lean in, not too far from the fingerboard. So I'm also playing with flatter hair. So everything is right. And I feel like I'm playing from my stomach. Now, this may be completely an illusion, but I think it helps nonetheless. In other words, you want to feel like you're playing from lower in your body. Yeah? Lower in your body. The sound doesn't come from here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. Violinists don't have to think about this.
Yeah.
The thing just sounds.
Yeah. Pretty
decent out of the box. Out of the Amazon shipping box. No, I'm kidding. But basically, the instrument is so perfectly put together acoustically. We are just not there, and that'll never change. But if you use more of your body to your advantage, with breath, with weight, with finding the best sounding point on here, which, and there is, very clearly, there's optimal sounding points versus the others, you'll get a much better sound. You'll get a much better sound pretty much on any instrument if you master this. Mm-hmm. Yeah? Let's try this again. So, floating, ease, draw the sound from, feel that it's coming from your belly. Yeah, loosen your belly in case it is tight. Yes, nice. Okay, so it would be nice to end this phrase without having to retake. It's not a good musical. I mean, it's unsettling. It's like the music is, you want calm. You want everybody to be like in the hall, and you're scaring me. No, really, it's a little sudden. Again, the bow speed thing. Here, I'm increasing the bow speed on those last two notes because I want to give them direction, sense of going forward. So it's not the four notes are not quite equal bow speed wise. Whatever the notes are. Yeah? Yeah. Not all the same. And just pay attention to intonation, so it's really spot on. Let's try it again. Good. It's all getting better. Now, as a last thing, imagine that it's like if you play the accordion, which is, it's an instrument we all love to make fun of, but if you imagine pulling the sound laterally this way, and like you're experiencing some resistance doing it, but you pull it like this, hopefully that'll help your arm be more glued to the string. Yeah, this is all, it's too fast. First of all, I certainly don't think that we should always have the same tempo. I mean, this is like, a lot of things that people say are wrong. Okay. Now I'm being facetious, but a lot of things that we say are a result of tradition or the fact that people have been doing it this way for a long time. So we got to a point now in music that things are expected to have the same tempo, at least by some people, unless, yeah. Now there is an ebb and flow in tempos though, and this is obvious. from the music itself, and also if you listen to performers from 100 years ago, they change tempi much more than we do. Yeah, like something that's exciting, they'll speed up. See, now that's considered bad taste, because that's how music is. People do a lot of things because a certain approach starts to look dated and old-fashioned, and then it comes back 50 years later. So we'll probably go back to this. However, I do think that a change of tempo here is odd. It's such a dreamy moment. Yeah, you want to really enjoy that with piano when you learn the piano part. You have this it's like raindrops. You have this moment with piano that is so like you both are listening. It's like the pianist has and it's like the sound just glows into the air, and you want to contribute to this. So it's a big change from what you just had.
Yeah.
Let's try it. Yeah, it's too fast. That's all very good. Now, in the, Brahms is one of those composers that people like to pontificate about. So while I'm trying not to do that, of course, I'm doing it as well. But I will say, like, part of his genius is that the form is extremely concentrated. It's like there's nothing superfluous in his music. If you took one note out, you'd hear it. You'd hear it if you were a layperson. Yeah. Because it's all so put together with perfection. And this is actually a very compact movement. Yeah? It goes very quickly. First theme, bridge, second theme. It's all right there. But sometimes some moments take a long time to grow. And I think this is one of them. So you need to save yourself until then it's, meanders a little. You know what meandering means, right? Like a river that, So you're, just kind of meandering like a river that it doesn't seem to know where it's going. But this is a searching. Then, if you give too much there, you have nowhere to go. You're still pondering things. And I believe there's no crescendo there at all. If I didn't know the piece, I would have no idea what's coming up. But in a way, you're telegraphing it too much. Yeah, let's try this foray-like moment. So, bow speed. But without doing the so-called cello disease. Just don't quote me on saying this. Cellists like to play really portato. I hope there's no cellists listening to this, because I'm tired of getting the death threats. But it's smooth, it's connected, but the bow string. So when you practice slowly, I suggest you really work on the bow speed thing, because it's essential to more expressiveness. Yeah, I mean, all the great players do this. There's no question. I mean, you will not find any of the players we idolize or look up to. None of them have consistent bow speed all the time. It doesn't sound good. Yeah, let's try this spot that way. Yeah. So save on the dotted on the D. That's inevitable. Yeah, necessary. Yes. Yeah, but by the way, just you're very young. You're very young. But still, it's like sometimes we want to feel like the it's imagine that somebody's pushing your arm from here. So that's how the note ends. The note doesn't end because you're going. Now I have to lift it off and that sounds it didn't sound so choked when I did it, but it tends to sound choked, that kind of thing. Instead, you just feel a sweep and you're guiding off the string and you're not controlling the end of that F. Like I was telling you earlier. Ta-da, yeah. Ta-da. Yeah, same here. That does, it's like I don't really know when that quarter ends. I just kind of yeah. I'm so sorry. I think we're out of time.
It's okay.
But
thank you so much. All
you're doing a great job. I would focus on learning the piano part. And I don't think learning the piano part means that if I ask you what's going on in measure 50 that you know, because very few people can learn music like that successfully. But it's in your ear and precisely. And for that, I also think listening is fine. Yeah, listening is fine. Listening is not a bad way to learn things. One doesn't just learn things from looking at the score, But play it. Play the piano part on the piano, or if you cannot, on the viola. It will really help, and do it many times so it's really in your ear. Because a lot of the decisions you have to make are going to be based on this, right? Like when the piano has T-rum, what are the notes? Yeah, T-rum, T-yum, T-yum, T-yum. So, ideally, yeah, you want to, while the piano cannot vibrate and all these things, an awareness of the sound that they're making informs the way you play this. Always. Otherwise, you sound like two people who are doing totally different things.
Yeah.
And especially you don't want to come across like somebody who's playing a sonata to come across as a great player. I mean, to show off, at a lack of a better term. It's about this collaboration. So even without piano, it would be nice to hear more of that. But this is like a lifelong process, and obviously you'll probably keep revisiting these sonatas, as we all do, many times in your life. So
thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. That was wonderful to get to hear. Really appreciate it, Milan. Thank you for the coaching. I'm going to say a quick thank you to everyone for tuning in and participating in this masterclass. Also, huge thank you to Anu and Stephanie for performing today for us. And if you have any questions for Milan or the performers, please enter them into the chat now. We've only got a couple of minutes. But Milan, I would like to absolutely follow up on something that you were saying during Anu's performance.
Sure.
You were talking about how we get so focused on being technically correct and how that comes out in our performance and we kind of lose that true musical expression. So my question to you is, how do we train ourselves out of focusing on being technically correct? Because that's something I fall into all the time too.
Oh my God. I mean, if I had an answer to that, I'll be the richest man in the world. It's a lot of mental training, but I think some of it is also like, what do you believe is true about life? Do you believe that you have to think about every note to play it properly? Some people do. So that belief needs to be changed. Because that way you'll never feel happy. Or if you believe that a performance, unless it is perfect, is not acceptable, you're setting yourself up for failure. I mean, that we go away from thinking in such ways. Now, I didn't say that you need to play wrong notes and it's okay, but just that the focus is on expression and saying something. And that way the technique will actually be better because it will have a reason to exist rather than a reason that is to satisfy these requirements that are heaped upon us and feel, oppressive, if you will, or unpleasant. Like, it's like I have to be perfect unless, or I have to play this just so unless. I focus on the expression, and that really helps me. So then I feel like I'm working for music. Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned on focusing on anything other than the actual performance. Is this what you're talking about? So getting that conscious mind out of the way, and that's that practice in and of itself.
That is something to practice. Like you take a difficult passage that gives you trouble. Let's say Tono 1 is a good example. The triplet passage in the middle of the first page. I would focus on my breath, my stomach, whether my shoulders are down. The idea to focus on something around you, like a fly on the wall or something, is not new. I did not come up with this, but it's because ultimately you want to feel like you're training your inner, beast to play, and that's who's doing the playing in the end when the performance comes. It's not something you're controlling in the moment. I think this is a little difficult for people to accept. It seems like it's not going to go well unless you control it. But I think that's something to I am convinced that, I don't want to say any, but when you hear a great performance, that person is not holding back. And if you try to control something, you are holding back by definition. It's unavoidable. So the book, The Inner Game of Tennis, which is a famous bestseller book, now probably published already 40 or more years ago, I strongly suggest this book, and I find that its examples, because they're based on tennis, are actually very illuminating. You can kind of you can see how similar it is in all these highly complex psychological, physical, perceptive endeavors like playing music or playing sports. Actually have a lot in common. So I recommend reading The Inner Game of Tennis very thoroughly because it gives a lot of examples and even ways to practice concentration, to get our minds off consciously. But it is a lifelong process. Like I played a concerto with orchestra 4 months ago, and it wasn't easy. I hadn't done that in about 2.5 years, and maybe it was a new piece that I just learned, and it was like weighing on me a little bit. But then when I played it again, it was much easier. In other words, some of it is just a lot of practice and a lot of repetition, and your body feeling like it's absolutely serving you. And I think we need to practice a lot for that. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's a multi-pronged issue, and there's many things to consider. But one of them is that you want to train your mind how to behave in moments of performance. And I think that's essential to a good performance.
That makes sense to get our technicalities out of the way. You also mentioned the importance of having fun to bring something to life, or bringing that subjective response as well. So that's something I know that we can practice as well. It hurts a little bit because it's so true when you talk about how when we get so focused on the technical, we really lose that performance or actually expressing ourselves well when we're so focused on doing something exactly right. So having fun. You still working on the recipe for that?
It's tough. It's tough. I like to listen to music for that reason, because it just kind of pumps me up. Sometimes even before important performances, I listen to, let's say, Guidon Kramer, who's one of my favorite violinists, and a lot of his playing, because he always sounds very free to me, and it's very expressive, like in this really almost gut-wrenching manner, but it's very compelling. So I kind of feel like, actually, The Inner Game of Tennis talks about this. Watching great tennis players who inspire you is a great way to get a temporary boost in performance. But why not? Yeah, it's recommended in one of the things in the book. Listen to people who inspire you. I think a concept of what you're doing, that's why I asked you, which mood, what do you think this is about? That helps, because then you have a story to tell. When you have a story to tell, you're more focused on that then. Yeah, and that's fun. Stories are fun. Ultimately, you are seducing the audience in a sense. You're telling them something that's compelling, that needs to hold their attention. So that already is kind of fun in itself. You're a bit like an actor. You have to act
Right.
out all these things. So, um, it's fun to be a different personage in different moments in a piece. So, you know, and sometimes you just smile when you're having a hard time. Like I told on you, it is a surprisingly effective strategy to slightly but noticeably change the way you feel.
Mm,
You're if you know if something feels difficult and you're like this, it's only going to get harder. If you're like smiling while you're playing, chances are you will experience some relief. Yeah, it's
that
worth
makes sense.
doing.
It's all those
Yeah,
little mental tricks that we
it's all
need.
those little mental tricks, but they have to be, it's something that you practice, just like you practice everything else. So there are ways. It's essential to trust that it
Right.
can be better. It can be better. You just kind of try all these things out, and you're consistent about it. You'll and definitely it starts to feel more like the music is flowing out of you rather than you have to think about everything for it to be good.
Got to get rid of that thinking brain. That's what gets in the way a lot.
It does, it has its time and place, but I think performance is very much a gut kind of thing. It's very visceral.
On you, Stephanie, any final questions? Because otherwise, I need to ask, how do we get rid of cello disease?
I said this to a cellist friend of mine once, and we were having some drinks. He said, "You don't want to know what we say about you." I mean, he meant violists, about our diseases. Um, I think that it's awareness. Awareness helps us that we're phrasing with an absolutely smooth bow arm, because this is breath, right? So if we just to be aware that there is a consistent tendency among classical musicians, especially on the lower instruments, to separate notes in order to be more expressive when you have legato. But I think if we're just aware of this, like to really, 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 unless it's written otherwise, play things very smooth, like to feel that the bow is driven by breath.
You talked about that actually just in terms of phrases, that maximally connected phrases where we're not, relying on just the bow to dictate our phrase, but trying to think longer than that. Are you thinking in terms of breath and like opera performance phrases? Are you just thinking about it musically, what actually makes sense for this statement as a phrase?
So, it's a great question. I have to do a video on this sometime, because I like to teach my students this thing that I learned from Donald Wallerstein, who is a famous violinist and violin teacher, where you breathe when you change bows, but in a specific manner, right? So when you get to the tip, so you start to breathe out before you reach the tip, and you continue once you've changed bows also. This tends to smooth out the bow. So this helps you just so that those interruptions are less interruptions. The bumps are less audible when you change bows. I mean, I'm hoping it's not interruptions. That's why I didn't want to use that word. That's much too harsh. But that the bumps are not there because you breathe in a way that makes your body more settled in that moment. So to breathe out as you're about to change the bow and continue it after you change it for a bit. And then the teaching says, once as you approach the frog, it's a little bit different. You want to breathe out right before. Yeah. So not breathing out to the change, just yeah. Because if you do that, again, your body is just so settled. This is all absolutely like you're like a tree. You're planted, and that's just a lot easier. So once you master this with the bow, in other words, when it just becomes very easy to play things with a completely kind of smooth legato, then then you can do anything you want. But you have to be aware that separating the notes in the bow arm to be expressive is unnecessary. In cello's defense, it's a bigger instrument with much thicker strings, and I think perhaps there's a feeling that there's a need to do this to really make things obvious, but it is not what's written. It's not what's written a lot of the time, so it's a mannerism. It becomes
Right.
a habit that extends its welcome.
So there's some questions specifically about how you're doing this breathing. So in terms of this, you also said when you think of breathing with the note rather than before the note. So is this also in terms of changing the bow? I'm not sure if this is addressed to starting the phrase or changing the bow.
I'm happy to show this really quickly. It's like in this case, you breathe out while you change. So I'm vocalizing the breathing out so that you hear what I'm doing. So, So I am breathing out while I'm playing it. Like I start here and I continue until about here when I change bows. That makes it a lot smoother. Yeah. And then when you get to the frog, you go ah. So I did completely finish breathing out right before. So, you can always do this when you have slower bows in any piece.
So this does apply. I think one of the other questions was this was applying to both up bow and down bow. And based on what you're just demonstrating, it absolutely does.
Yes, it does. And it is slightly different at the tip as it is on the frog. But it is extremely effective. I think it has this very positive effect on our technique generally, in that it illuminates the fact that the bow is driven by breath as our bow changes, rather than something mechanical that still needs to be mastered somehow. And once you master it, your bow changes will be smooth. They won't. I mean, unless you're a genius, but the rest of us mortals you do it with breath and you're playing much better.
It also links, I would think, a little bit more to what is naturally happening within our bodies, as opposed to, again, that controlling side. We are thinking about controlling our breath, but not nearly to the degree that we think about controlling our other technical skills.
There's that, and honestly, I think a lot of people forget to breathe. I mean, it's kind of true. Like it seems so tertiary when you're playing that you'd be surprised that maybe you just don't have enough oxygen in you. And this, there's something very settling about it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Milan. We really appreciate this and your wonderful coaching of both on you and Stephanie. We will have another masterclass next week for violin. I won't tell them what they said about violin and Amazon boxes today. But if you would like to tune into that, you're welcome to tune in next week. So I would just like to say again, a huge, huge thank you to Milan. This has been wonderful getting to talk and hear all the details.
As always. My pleasure. Thanks so much. And
Thank
great
you,
to hear you guys. Very well done.
Thank you very much, Milan.
Thanks very much, Katie.
Good to see you again.